Hello and welcome back to my channel. I hope that you're doing well. If you're new here, my name is Amy. I'm an Irish ecologist living in Ireland and I love to grow plants, which I hope is pretty clear from the background of this video. Today I want to go through my September favorites, which, to be honest, the more that I do these favorites videos, the more I'm actually finding it a little bit more difficult to choose what my favorites are, because I'm trying to choose different ones so that I can show you a little bit more of my collection. And to be honest, this month was pretty hard, but I know why that is, and that's because I actually haven't spent a whole lot of time with my plants over the last month and a half. I've been so busy with work and a lot of other things going on that I haven't had time to kind of spend time with my plants. Like, I've literally just been running around crazy watering, but I haven't actually, mindfully looked at them all and thought about their growth. But a couple of things have happened which are definitely worth updating you on. So the first favorite is one that I talked about in some recent Hoya videos. Any Hoyas in my favorites and my Hoya collection video as well. It was something that I talked about that I hoped would happen, and it did happen. My Hoya carnosa Crimson Queen flowered for the first time. This is the first time a Hoya carnosa has flowered for me. I have the normal Hoya carnosa, I have the Crimson Queen and the Crimson Princess, which is up here in the wall. Crimson Queen is over here. Hoya carnosa is on the ground here. It flowered, so I'm going to show you some videos of that happening right now because it was just so beautiful. Unfortunately, I had my old phone, which I use for time lapses, actually filming another time lapse of something else very exciting, which I will share soon, happening downstairs, which I thought was a more rare occurrence. So I didn't get a time lapse of this opening, which I'm really upset about, but it was still really enjoyable. Smelled so beautiful. I can't even remember what the smell was, to be honest. But it was really, really nice, beautiful. It was, a lot of my Hoya flowers don't have that kind of ball shape where the flowers really spread out. Oftentimes I get quite small ones. This was the first one of those that really resembled that beautiful circular shape of the full umbel of flowers. So I was really, really excited about that. So that is up there with favorite number one of this month. And although you've seen it all before, just to show you the wonderful plant that it is, this is her Hoya carnosa Crimson Queen. The Crimson Queen means the variegation on the edges of the leaves on the outside. The Crimson Princess has white in the internal sides, in the internal area of the leaf. It has a lot of white leaves which stay white and are pretty happy. It is so beautiful. The flower and peduncle is down here on one of the white leaves, and I'm hoping it will reflower for me. I'm not sure how readily these flower. It is not falling off, so I feel like it will just reflower. That is the hope. It also has beautiful pink leaves going on in here, and it sits onto my windowsill. It gets highlight for sure, but it's very happy. It is not very picky in terms of care and watering and all of that stuff. It's always been a fairly steady plant. It hasn't grown a huge amount, I would say, in the last 2 years, but it has really taken off this year. Maybe that's why it started flowering. So that flowered for me. There's a reason why it's in the favorites. It's really up there with one of the most exciting things that's happened in the plant world over the last month or two. A little bit of background on this plant. It was first discovered, it's a cultivar of Hoya carnosa. So the species Hoya carnosa was first discovered in 1810. It is native to China, Taiwan and Laos, and it is an epiphytic plant. It likes growing on other plants, and it is found in a subtropical biome. So that is the type of habitat that it likes, and I just love it. The next plant is an interesting one as to why I put it in favorites, because generally I pick plants that have, recently flowered for the first time, or growth has taken off or something like that. There's a reason it's doing pretty well. That's generally why I put a plant in a favorite. And to be honest, this plant isn't doing that well, but It's one that I really like, and I haven't quite figured out why it's not doing that well yet, but I thought it would be good to include in this month's favorites. It is quite big. It is Strelitzia Nicolai. It is a bird of paradise, if you did not know. I will put up a picture of the flowers of these. If you don't recognize this plant, you probably will from the flowers. It is very big, it is very beautiful, and it is also very kind of famous and common. The leaves are just huge and they unfurl really, really nicely. This plant stays at my kitchen window. It gets a lot of light. It's happy there. I did repot it in the last, I'd say 6 months, and I think that the cocoa peat mixture, it doesn't like that much. I don't quite know why that is. I think it's might be the hydrophobic nature of it. When cocoa peat gets dry, it kind of repels water at the same time, and ever since that, it hasn't been that happy. And the reason why I know it's not happy is because although it has been putting out new growth, which looks really healthy, it's been having a lot of chlorosis and yellowing on the older leaves. Now, I haven't seen any pests. Imagine if I found a pest now. But I haven't seen any pests or any other issues going on with this plant, so I don't quite know what is wrong with it, but I'm hoping I will figure it out. I do think it could be inconsistent watering and a mixture of the problem with the substrate in the new pot, because it was happy before then. But like I said, it is growing, actively growing too, so it's kind of hard to know exactly what the reason is. This plant was first discovered in 1788 and is native to South Africa. Lives in a subtropical biome. This plant can get really, really big, and it is just so beautiful. I do think for a houseplant environment, this is a big plant to get, and while it's big now, it is still manageable as a size now, but I think for a long term, in terms of having a houseplant, it's probably not suitable. Like, this is going to get to a stage where it just gets too big, and I'm either going to have to give it away, compost it, or whatever. It is definitely a favorite of mine. I love how the leaves look. I love how they kind of come out of the petiole really kind of folded up and wrapped around, and then they slowly unfurl, and I think that that is just beautiful to watch. Also, just big, cool green leaves are just, they're just the best. The next plant I have kind of acquired this year actually used to be one of my grandmother's plants in her home, and I have great memories of walking past this plant for many, many years, even through my childhood. I have no idea how old it is, but it's old. Unfortunately, my grandmother passed away earlier this year, and I did kind of take in this plant. I guess I don't have a lot of, like, I have a couple of plants from her. She was a big influence in my early life about even outdoor gardening and doing gardening together and things like that. Being interested in indoor plants, that's, I think a lot of that is where that came from in my life. But I don't have a lot of plants that have that kind of pressure. I'm so terrified of not taking care of this plant. I just really, really, really don't want it to die for obvious reasons. And I wonder if any of you have had that experience about plants that have come from someone who maybe passed away, someone that's close to you. It can mean a lot, but I'm so freaking scared of this plant because it's a ficus. And ficus, because I don't have any in my collection. I used to try them. There's a reason why I don't try them anymore. I never found them quite easy to take care of. Well, maybe some of the plain rubber plants were quite easy, but I found them a little bit boring. And this is a Ficus benjamina cultivar. I think it's called White or White Star or something like that. I can't quite remember. This is what it looks like. This is in its original form. This is the same pot that it was in. That has some spiders in it, and it's like a little tree, and it's really beautiful. Now, I really do want to repot this plant and I want to give it the best life possible, but I think with any plant that you're quite nervous about it dying and you're moving it into a new environment, it's always best to change only one of those things at a time. This plant was coming from one house and one care regime into a new house and a different care regime, and I just thought, do not repot this until it is definitely comfortable in its environment. So that's generally how I approach these things. When I tell you there is almost no soil left in this pot, it is all root, it is rock hard, it has probably lived in this pot for 20 years. My grandmother, as much as she loved plants and indoor plants, she was not that good at taking care of them. She would often just totally waterlog things, and just definitely in her older years. I think she was much better when she was younger, but this plant, when I tell you this plant has been abused, it has been abused, like for real. So I am trying to be really careful in how I water this, because I know that it's used to being overwatered and then being dry for long periods of time. So I'm trying to just ignore it as much as possible, but I have given it quite high light. It's actually beside the strelitzia downstairs. The leaves are variegated beautifully, absolutely beautiful. This is also known as weeping fig. You can see why, because of its growth pattern. It also has some green stalks here as well. It has been actively growing, which I think is a very positive sign. There are quite a lot of cobwebs here. Somebody is living down there. Yeah, it has also been over fertilized with those fertilizer balls that were just absolutely thrown in there. But it has also had quite a bit of leaf drop. So we're just taking it easy with this one, but it is in the favorites because I just actually think it is so beautiful, and obviously it means a lot to me. It's even hard to show it properly on camera, but it is just so gorgeous. So the road with this one is going to be long. I'm just going to be as careful as possible. But yeah, if you have any specific ficus or Ficus benjamina care tips, please leave them down below. Super open to that. This plant was first discovered in 1767 and is native to Asia and Northern Australia in a wet tropical biome. So, you know, not a bad habitat type for me. The next plant, which unfortunately I actually just chopped up this morning, and I forgot that I was going to put it in the favorites video. So it has recently been chopped. The reason it was chopped is because it's growing so fast, and a huge reason to put in the favorites. This is Hoya manipurensis. I've shown this plant fairly recently, actually. In my last video in one of my last videos where I showed some new plants, I got a Dischidia, and this plant has been, I mean, it resembles a Dischidia, and it has, although it's a Hoya now, it has gone through a couple of reclassifications, and if you can look at the flowers, they don't look like Hoya flowers to me, but apparently genetically it is. So this is in the favorites because this plant has absolutely taken off in terms of growth. Now, like I said, I just cut this plant this morning, so just to show you how long it was. That's how long it was. Chop this off. I wanted to branch off and I want to propagate this and make it a fuller plant, because as you can see, it's kind of only growing on one side of the pot. And then I also cut all of this off the top. As you can see, the leaves kind of closed up, I think because it's under my Spider Farmer grow light. It was getting so tall that it was almost like at the top of the light, and that was just way too much light. Although like it handled it pretty well, you can see how the leaves close up like this. It's protecting itself from high light. Like it was too much. It was just way too much light. Quite a few unopened flowers on this cut bit as well that can show you. I actually have a time lapse of these flowers opening on my Instagram somewhere. It's such an interesting plant. Like, look at the leaf shape is so bizarre. These little triangles. It's hairy, it's furry. It's really beautiful, and it's been growing really, really fast and is quite happy recently. Although I have, in my research of this for this video, seen that quite a lot of people have difficulty with this. I don't know why. Maybe my highlight spider farmer just makes this easier for me. I don't really know why, but it is really beautiful. This plant was first discovered, or at least classified, as Hoya manipurensis in 1955. It is native to Nepal, Thailand, Myanmar, Assam, Bangladesh, and China. There are no pictures from this from the wild online. I don't exactly know why that is. Maybe because it's been reclassified. If I knew the previous names and searching that might be more successful. I'm not totally sure. I'll see if I can find any in the edit of this video and I'll put them on the screen. I'm really excited now that I've understood its, I guess, the way that it wants to grow, and it's growing really fast, and I can propagate it and it'll become more bushy. I'm really excited about that. I think it will look really, really cool when the pot is full. Now, the last plant is a very big one, and it goes without saying that this plant is always going to be a favorite of mine every single month, because it is just so beautiful and it has a lot of meaning for me. And I'm honestly so proud of how this plant has done. It is just it is just beautiful, okay? This is my philodendron species affinity sagittifolium. If you don't know, species affinity basically means it has an affinity to this species. I don't know what this plant actually is, but it looks pretty similar to sagittifolium. However, when you look at sagittifoliums, there are also quite a few differences. So I just don't know what this plant is. There is a few other videos about this plant on my channel. If you want to go and watch them, it can explain why this plant means a lot to me, where I got it from, and what its journey has been. In very short, I got it around the time that I got married as a cutting from somebody who didn't really speak very much English and was just growing it in their garden. So I have taken a cutting of that and I've grown it into the massive tree that it is. I'm going to tell you all of this before I pick it up, because I'm not going to pick it up for long because it literally is that heavy. Even though we don't know it's a sagittifolium, background on sagittifolium as a species was first discovered in 1849. It is native to Mexico to Venezuela region. It is an epiphyte and it lives in a wet tropical biome like most philodendrons. It's definitely the biggest philodendron that I own. It has the biggest leaves. It is one of the easiest to take care of. Let's just show you. Okay. So, can you even see? Let me wait for the camera to adjust. This is how big it is now, okay? It is really heavy, like extremely heavy. It is so big, okay? Let me tell you, it is a big girl. You can see all of the aerial roots. Some of them grip on, some of them need way more space than the branch that it has. The branch can no longer hold the sheer weight of this plant. Like when I tell you, this is so heavy. But look at the beautiful leaves. Look at the beautiful leaves. I think they are around 40 centimeters now. That's one of the newest leaves I'm showing you right now. Yeah, definitely over 35, I would say. And new leaf on the way. As per usual, it is constantly growing. I have to put this down. So yeah, I mean, I just thought I would show it to you. I thought you may enjoy how massive this plant is now. And like, it just continues to grow. I really don't know what I'm gonna do about the future of this plant. Like I said a few times, we're hoping to buy a house, and I hope that in this house there is a place that I can make a really permanent situation for this plant, because it's going to need extreme structure and somewhere that is safe to grow. I probably will have to actually like build something to keep this plant steady, some kind of wooden structure or something like this, because it is just so much weight. And I have never propagated it. I don't want to ever propagate it. I want it to just grow big and beautiful. So I I hope we found that in some beautiful corner somewhere in the house. It can just continue to grow wildly. Those are my September favorites. I hope that you enjoyed watching this video and seeing some different type of plants that I don't always show on the channel. And yeah, let me know what your favorites are for this month in your collection, some plants that I may not know about. There are so many plants and cultivars of plants in this world, and it is so interesting to hear about new ones that you don't know about, which is what keeps this hobby so exciting. So please share that in the comments below. If you did enjoy the video, please like the video and subscribe if you want to see more from me. As well as that, I do have a Patreon, and I would like to thank my patrons for this month. In the species tier, we have Grace, Siobhan and Yendi. In the genus tier, we have 2 Amy's, and thank you very much from this Amy. And in the family tier, we have Michael. Thank you so much for your support, guys, this month. It really means the world to me. If any of you are interested in joining my Patreon, the link is at the bottom of the screen, and it's also linked in the description, and you can get access to patron-only polls, text posts from me, as well as bonus content, bonus videos every month. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon in the next one. Bye!